Well, today in our children's garden, we're going to be installing a small water garden. And children love water features, but we don't want a really large one. We just want a small one in here. And we went ahead and went with a hard plastic liner. Now, you can get flexible liners, but this is one that goes in a whiskey barrel. However, it was the right size for us, and we can sink this in the ground. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, with your liners that are non-flexible, what you want to do to start with is find your position that you're going to put your water garden in. Remember, you want to site a water garden in a place where it's got a lot of sun. Usually you want to site it where you don't have a lot of trees, so you don't have to worry about leaves falling in your water garden. And we've got a good spot like that right here in the corner of our children's garden. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to take your liner and you want to lay it out. And what we did with this is we just drew around the top of it. On the ground, you could lay a rope, a hose, or even just a stick, since we've got ground here, and make the outline of our liner. Now, we wouldn't want to do it right at the bottom because we've got a little bit of slant here. So we're going to want to start at the top and get the outline of that. Then, after you've got that outlined, you want to add 2 to 4 inches around the outside to allow for some fill to go back in. Next, we started digging from the center out, and we dug our hole. Now, as I put my liner down in here, you can see that I left a little bit of room because I want my liner to stick out on the top just a bit. Now, if you have a level surface and you're out in a lawn area, or it's an area where things might wash into it, as opposed to being on a patio area where it's going to have flagstone all the way around, you're going to want to leave a little bit of area to slope away from it. And it really doesn't have to be a lot of slope. Just about 1 inch to 1 foot is all the slope that you need. And that will help the rainwater run away from your pond instead of down into it and get all the dirt, grass clippings, anything like that into your pond. So if you just leave a little bit up on top, and we'll slope the soil up to this after we're done. Now, I dug it just a little bit deeper, and then I've put a fill down here in the bottom. And what I've used for the fill is just a mix of sand and the soil that I excavated. Now, if you have nice loose soil, you could probably just use soil down here. However, our soil is very chunky and it has a lot of clods in it, and so I mixed it, and most of what I'm using is sand here. In fact, you could just go completely with sand. And I've got about a 2-inch layer here, and I've already pressed this down quite a bit. We've compacted it. The other thing that you want to check is we want to check the level here. And we've got a pretty level surface, and you can just use a level and a 2x4 that's long enough to go across your hole here, and make sure that it's level around the edge. Now, if I put it right here, we're okay. I've got some little dips here we may need to fill in at the end, but for the most part, we've got a level surface on either side. Now, if you're building this and you've got a little bit of slope, that's not a problem. You don't have to have it all level all the way around for a large way. It is better, however, if you have a slope coming down and you put your water garden here to fill on the other side, as opposed to digging out on the uphill side to fit that water garden in, because that will help with the water drainage away from your water garden. So it's a little better to fill on the other side as opposed to cut out on the uphill side. Now, we've checked the level of this. The other thing that we want to check the level of is our liner. And we just set the liner down in there. Now, if you have a bigger liner, you'll probably need somebody to help you with this. And again, we just put a 2x4 across, and then we'll check and see that it's level this way. And we want to do this in 2 directions, and it looks like we're pretty good. If we weren't level, which I already leveled this up to save time, if we weren't, we'd just add a little bit more sand. Now, the next step, you think, I'll just start filling right away. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to fill with water instead of soil. And you're going to do this in increments. And I'm going to let some of the pressure off of my line here. And we're going to start filling this. I've got it positioned where I want it. And we've checked the level. And then I'm just going to start filling this. Now, I'm not going to fill this completely full because that might affect the level of my liner and it might start to bulge it out. And so I'm going to put about 4 inches of water in here, and then I'm going to fill up to the water level on the outside. So we'll go ahead and let this fill, and then I'll come back and start filling around the edge. Now if your water is really, really slow, you can get this up to 4 inches and start filling, and you can probably beat it to your 4 inches. But I'm going to let this fill up, turn it off, and then I'll start putting my soil in. We'll do one final check of the level, and hopefully we've checked it along the way, because we can't do a whole lot about it right now, but it looks like we're okay. And we've got a nice level pond here. Now you'll notice as I was filling in with our soil and sand mix that at each level of 4 inches of soil in there, I was tamping it down, and you want to tamp that down in there very well so that it's nice and firm. Also, it helps if you've got moist sand, because it packs a lot better. It was a little hard to keep it all moist the whole time because it's pretty hot out here, but that'll help pack that in a lot better. Now we've got our pond full of water and we've got it filled in around. Now we need to come back and put an edging around here, and you want to do that after you've filled in around your pond, and you want to make sure that you've got water in it again so that it stays level, because sometimes it can shift a little bit as you put the edging in. Now there is a possibility, and you noticed as I was putting the sand and soil in, you can get soil and stuff in your water. You may end up having to drain this out and clean it out before filling it with fish, or if you're going to put a water lily or plant in here or something like that, if you get too much stuff in there, especially if you're using any cement or mortar around here, because that can actually have a basic effect on the water, and that wouldn't be good for your plants or your fish. So right now we've got it full of water, and we're going to leave that there, and hopefully we won't get it dirty, but if we do, we'll clean it out and start over. The other thing that we're going to need now is a pump. And what we want to do is find a pump that will circulate all the water in this at least once an hour. And if we want to do any type of water feature, we're going to need to find one that circulates us about twice an hour and get some lift out of it. So we're going to go look for a pump, and we'll come back later and install that.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.